How's it going, you wandering stars? It's been a long time since the last video update, but because of current events, figured I'll make a new one. Today's topic is going to be what a magic practitioner should do during a pandemic. Now, this won't be a conspiracy video, although I will touch on one soon, potentially, if you would like to see that. Lots of people have been covering it, but there are some avenues that hasn't been touched on yet. Also, another quick disclaimer, this isn't to hate on anyone who has been self-quarantining because you feel you're immune. You don't want to bring it to your loved ones. The only thing I'll say conspiracy-wise is that it's definitely not what the media and government is telling you. The first thing a magic practitioner should do during a pandemic is make sure you do not give into fear. If you give into fear, you won't think clearly, and you could allow your energy to be harvested. You can also hijack their rituals and use whatever energy they're gathering for your own needs. You don't want that. Also, the next thing you should do is think about, are you prepared? How, and if you're not, how could you be? Self-sufficiency and self-reliancy is the most important. You're going to want to build up your stockpiles of food and water if it's not already, or think about how are you going to harvest or forage and grow your own food out in the wild and in nature. And like I said, this is for magic practitioners, those who believe and know magic is true and can alter and shape the reality and world around us. So what I mean by that is, in these times, it's not time to panic, but it's time to take inventory and see if we're prepared. If not prepared, start honing your abilities to make sure you are next time or better now, so we can make things align, so everything is taken care of. The next thing we want to do is make sure our connections are good. So this is a time to collaborate with our friends and families or other practitioners and covens, groups, guilds, whatever you call it. Because the reason why the mainstream is usually so strong, as in like the ones who try to manipulate this world, is because they work together. So we need to come together. Of course, you can be a lone wolf out there if you so desire, but we know there's strength in numbers, and there's strength even in group casting efforts. So start getting in touch with your intuition, your higher self, your deities, and your guides, and whoever you work with, so you can make sure all things are aligned and things are provided for. What's going on right now is horrific, and not just because of the stuff that is happening, but because of the liberties that are being eroded away. You know, I'm not talking about it's necessarily time for a revolution, because, you know, for me, I believe that the best way is to have a self-sufficient breakaway society, obviously with means to protect ourselves if necessary. So I just want to make that quick and clear. I know that, again, like, there's no script I want to get on here. I tried to make a video the other day, but there was too much wind, and so I jumped back on, came out here. And the one thing I do want to say is, depending on your point of view, or those who are on the path of apotheosis, or maybe more Luciferian or satanic, I don't know how you want to think of it, but if you feel like your own sovereign being, again, how can they give you a time out? Oh, that's another thing I want to touch on. Now, yes, it's always good to have a positive mindset, how we do things, and that's good, but don't let the positive mindset become Stockholm Syndrome. And what I mean is, of course, right now, people could be taking advantage of all this free time and making the most of it, and that's good. You want to always be productive and do things that you always wish you could do, but you could have always done that. So don't look at the system taking away your freedoms and liberties by shutting you down and bringing in martial law as like a positive thing, because it's really not. As those freedoms goes, like if you're kidnapped in someone's garage or barn or basement or whatever, and a hostage situation, and you're like, oh, well, I'm so glad I'm captured because now I can finally meditate, because I've been meaning to do that. And like, sure, meditation may help, if you figure out a plan how to get out of it, but don't look at that situation like it was, meant to happen in that way. So just keep that in mind when you're going about things. I think I covered everything, although I may have not, because like I said, the video covered, but the main thing I wanted to get home in this video is to not give into fear. Make sure you're prepared. If you're not prepared, think about how can you be prepared next time, or what rituals and magical power you can do to have things aligned so you always have food and water, and having that perfect intuition to know now is the time to raise your powers and abilities to the maximum. If you haven't already, of course, we're always on this path of apotheosis, so it's an ever learning and increasing time of getting one's strength, power, and gnosis heightened. So just keep that in mind. But I will say that while of course you should take advantage of this opportunity, like I mentioned, don't get it twisted or confused like it is a good thing, because it is not. And while this may end soon, it might not. So if the stores close, if the electricity or internet is turned off, do you have your plans to rally up with your loved ones or team or friends or what have you? Do you have ways of communicating without this technology? Have you built up your telepathy? Can you do it through your deities or spirit allies and communication that way? So that's something to keep in mind. One more thing to think about: make sure you get out in nature and reconnect, because you have all the power and energy out here. Stay away from the 5G if you can, because yes, it is harmful to the body and the mind, as well as other overbearing electronic magnetic frequencies. There's way too much EMFs, and we'll touch on that in another video, but just make sure you are still getting out in nature and connecting. And we all know Magick's stronger out here anyway, and I'll cover that soon why. But like I said, this won't be a conspiracy video. I'll link some things down below in the description box of things I think you should check out, talking about the EMFs, the 5G, suspicious activity on certain CEOs and events that shows that this whole thing is staged and rigged. But just because something is rigged and staged doesn't mean that people can't get harmed. So keep that in mind as well, and make sure you do boost your immune system. Lots of vitamin C is beneficial. A, E, and D can help as well. I would also recommend spirulina, because that can help detox heavy metals, rejuvenate your cells, and everything like that. And it will help combat things. Also, don't get any mandatory vaccines if that comes, because again, it's just going to harm the body. Now, I'm not saying necessarily all vaccines are bad, but look at how this all came to be. They give you a problem, then they give you the solution. They want people, I've seen it firsthand, they have people begging for their freedoms to be taken away, begging for a vaccine, begging for martial law, and Orwellian nightmares playing out before our eyes. But we can change that and be like, this isn't going to happen in this world line, and we can shift realities and manifest things. So just want to stick that in there really quickly. But like I said, I'm not going to ramble on too long here because I've already have enough, and I'll make a more detailed, thorough video later. But I wanted to get on and make a quick one just to say that I know you may have been expecting a little bit more of step-by-steps, but I think the best thing a magic practitioner can do during this time is not give into fear. It's fine to check and see what the mainstream is saying, but then go a little bit further and listen, use your intuition, use your discernment to see if you can trust it or believe what they're saying. Because I'm telling you, if it was real, things would have been a lot different. And that's not to say people haven't died or been harmed. And if you know someone, then you have my condolences for that. But again, I won't touch into that. How this pandemic and the numbers we see is nothing compared to the flu. And even if it was, it doesn't justify people's liberties being taken away and businesses mandatory shut and people forced into their homes. But as a practitioner, what you can do, because we know we can shape reality and manifest, now's the time. Now's the time to manifest the world we want by magic or mundane means. Right now, it looks like the odds may be stacked against us, so magic can definitely even those odds and take us even further. So now's the time. There's already been wake-up calls before this, but if not, let this be it.